us one more just because we haven't heard it in a while.
Here we go! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Jofo in the Ring. And what an episode we have for you today. I mean, normally we have guests on here from the world of wrestling, but it's always great when we get someone from outside of the world of wrestling who is a wrestling fan themselves and who's participated in a few wrestling events while not necessarily being someone on my side of the curtain. So I always like to interact and get their experiences, and today is exceptionally unique. We have someone who has served our country, Canada, this right here, served it so proudly and done a fantastic job all throughout their career in politics. Someone who has not been without their share of controversy, but hey, you know, I like to say sometimes controversy can be the spice of life. And also someone who has had a direct impact on two of my title matches in Great North Wrestling. Our guest today is none other than the esteemed Senator Patrick Brazeau. Patrick, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How about you, champ?
Oh, doing fantastic as always. You know, here I am in the shape of my life, you know, ready to take on all comers and, you know, just always living for the moment, living for every day. And so glad to be able to be on here talking with, you know, someone who has been very instrumental in, like I said, a couple of my championship wins, but has also lived a very interesting life and has done a lot of good for this country. So it's really my honor and pleasure to be able to speak to you here and hopefully enlighten our audience to everything that you're all about. So with that said, maybe you could give them a little bit of background on what it is you're doing right now in politics. Explain to them about your position and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, essentially, I'm very focused because of my personal experience with, you know, mental health issues and alcohol abuse. You know, I've been sober for. I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary just a few days ago of being clean and sober, and so my focus is very much on looking at mental health issues and suicide prevention within the Senate, but also looking at the Indigenous peoples across this country because we know that because of the residential school system, it has had a lot of post-traumatic effects on generations of Indigenous peoples who are hurting and suffering. And so I'm certainly, because of lived experience, I'm certainly working a lot on that first and foremost.
Yeah. And I think it's good that you have firsthand experience in dealing with that. So it gives you that perspective rather than someone from the outside looking in. And this is a very serious issue, no doubt about it. With that said, maybe you could let the people know how long has it been that you've been in office? If I'm not mistaken, I think it's been since 2013. Is that correct?
No, actually, I was named in January of 2009.
Nine.
So we're already at 13 years. So it's been quite a while, and it hasn't, you know, it has come with a few bumps and bruises along the way. But that being said, you know, on a personal level, I'm in a good space right now, and in a space to provide. And like I said, because of lived experience, I'm able to luckily provide, you know, some experience that may help shape future policies.
Yep. Excellent. And like I said, you know, you're doing a great job. You seem very passionate about all of these issues and have done a lot of good for the Indigenous peoples here in Canada. With that said, your time in politics has had so many different highlights, everything from, you know, boxing Justin Trudeau to getting involved in championship title matches in Great North Wrestling to even hitting me with a spear. What's it been like being, you know, under that kind of scrutiny and you know, in the media and in the public? You know, what kind of an effect did that have on you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, when I first got involved into politics, it was actually in Indigenous politics. I was the national chief of the Congress for Aboriginal Peoples, which is an organization that advocates for the rights and interests of Indigenous peoples living off reserve throughout Canada. And so, at that time, when I got involved, I was very young, and you know, I wanted to change things. I was an impatient person, and I was always passionate about some of my beliefs and some of my principles. And you know, when I brought that to the forefront, Unfortunately, there are many people who weren't quite ready, perhaps, to have young blood at the time.
Mm.
But certainly, I've always been passionate about things that I've always fought for. I had, obviously some personal struggles where almost led me to ending my life. I did survive 2 suicide attempts, but I'm doing well now, and slowly and one day at a time, I'm slowly getting this passion again for wanting to change things, but doing so in a different way, and doing it so in a much more respectful way, and certainly in a nonpartisan way, because I think that being having been in a political party before and being highly partisan, I think that certainly didn't help me professionally or personally. And
Mm.
now I'm an independent senator. I believe that many people of all walks of life have many good ideas to bring to the forefront. And as an individual, as a senator, I'm there to think and look on an independent way as to what laws are passed in this country or not.
Yeah. No, and that's excellent. And we all learn through our life experience. And sometimes we go through things to be able to grow and become better at what we do, but to become better at life, in fact. I firmly believe that. And one of the things that surprised me about you as we briefly got to know each other, I think that first time that we worked together at Great North Wrestling was one, I was very surprised to find out that you are also a fellow Quebecer from the same province here as myself, and also a Montreal Canadiens fan. So
Absolutely.
that was it was good to know when you were in my corner that I had a hometown boy here on my side, but also representing us in Parliament too. So that's very encouraging and good to know. And like I said, I can't say it enough. You've done a lot of great work to raise awareness about so many issues throughout the Aboriginal and Indigenous communities here in Canada. And yeah, you seem like a really cool person. That was the main vibe I got from you. Like I almost didn't believe, because I didn't necessarily know of you until maybe a couple of days before the show when Hannibal had announced that you were going to be part of it. And I didn't know who you were. And then meeting you, I was like, oh wow, I was expecting a politician. I was expecting someone in a suit, someone who's more of a square, very uptight. And you seemed like a very down to earth individual. Talked to everybody in the locker room. I wouldn't have pegged you as being a politician at all, but I think we need more people like that. We need more people who break the mold. Do you get that a lot when meeting people, that they're surprised that you're so down to earth and personable?
Well, first of all, I come. I was raised in the town of Maniwaki, Quebec, which is about an hour and a half drive north of Ottawa, but on the Quebec side. And people are friendly, and people, just we're just one big family, and so we get to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life, and it's all a matter of respecting people, whether they've made it in life or whether they're struggling in life. It's a matter of respecting people. And certainly I lost a little bit of that several years ago while I was in the midst of doing some partisan politics. But having stepped back and having thought about that, certainly, I try to keep that in my day-to-day experiences. And anybody who takes the time to get to know me generally, likes me. People say I'm a pretty cool guy. I think I'm a pretty cool guy. But having said that, I did have my fair share of problems, and now I'm in a position and in a situation where I'm trying to make amends for a lot of the past mistakes I've done, while at the same time healing and trying to
Yep.
contribute and doing what I can.
Yep. And I mean, I'll definitely say you're a great guy, even if just for the fact that you had the guts to run in there, push a ladder that had Hannibal on it, and help me win my second Great North Wrestling Championship. So, I'll always owe you one for that. And also the fact that you took that pile driver off the apron through a table, which was absolutely devastating. Talk about a viral moment there. That thing had people talking about that. It made the news. It was... Man, I just got to ask, when you were approached about that, what was that like for you?
Well, funny story. I mean, Hannibal approached me when I was actually having some personal and professional problems, and asked me if I want to take part in this wrestling gala. And immediately I said yes, because I've always been, growing up, I was always a wrestling fan, and here's my shot at not only like I took Justin Trudeau in a boxing ring, but here's my chance to be in a wrestling ring. So why not? And so he, I always enjoyed the fact that he reached out to me, and I took advantage of that. And but let me say, I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen, and all I can say is that I was bruised and battered for about a whole week. I mean, my entire chest was purple because of the chops that I had received, and it wasn't a pretty sight. But hey, sometimes you just have to pay the price.
Well, Hannibal's no joke. Take it from a guy, probably the only guy who's been in there with him about 15 or 16 times and still somehow lived to tell about it. I feel that a lot of times people look at me and be like, Jeremy Prophet, you're a pretty boy. You're not that tough. It's like, well, look, how many guys are willing to get in the ring with that animal that many times and be able to take the fight to him? I always use that as an example because he's one of the toughest SOBs in this game today. But you, not even being a trained wrestler, got in there and you took your licks like a man. And I can tell you, you gained a lot of respect from the locker room. I mean, when he got his hands on you, I was backstage at that point, and tons of people were sticking their head out the curtain to be like, oh, what's he going to do to him? What's he going to do to him? And they kind of thought you were going to maybe get away scot-free. But then when he started laying into you and then picked you up and then gave you that pile driver off the apron through the table, just like a bump that, between you and I guess all our listeners at this point, a bump that I don't know if there was anyone else except for maybe me who'd be willing to take that in that locker room. So, yeah, definitely you showed a ton of guts and intestinal fortitude for being willing to do that. And you actually gained a lot of respect from the boys. So I found that pretty cool to see. I know that at the time, I feel you were there with maybe, I don't know if it was your girlfriend or your wife, or maybe it was a woman that was with you. And I remember she was freaking out about the whole thing because I think you didn't tell her that was going to happen.
Well, not only did I not tell her, I didn't know myself what was going to happen. All I was asked to do is guest referee a match, and the rest is history. But it was, I would do it again in a heartbeat. That's for sure.
Well, that maybe makes you a better man than me because they'd have to maybe put an extra zero on my paycheck for me to do that. Now, you did mention that you boxed Justin Trudeau. And that was, that was a big highlight. I think to this day, when you search, you go into Google, you put Senator Patrick Brazeau, almost all the images, the first couple of images that come up are you boxing him. In fact, there's this great one. We can probably put it up once we edit the broadcast where you're landing a great right hook right across his jaw. Great image. How did that come about? And by the way, for those of you who don't know who are watching, because we have a lot of international viewers, Justin Trudeau is the current Prime Minister of Canada. How did that come about, the idea of you and him doing that boxing match? And, give us a little background on that if you can.
Sure. Well, actually, at the time, he wasn't even leader of the Liberal Party. He was just a member of Parliament when the Conservatives were in power. And so he, through a mutual friend, his mutual friend asked me if I would be interested in taking part in this boxing gala to raise funds for cancer research in Ottawa. And so having been a former Conservative, and he being a Liberal, I immediately accepted the challenge. And I had never boxed before. I do have a second-degree black belt in karate, but I had never boxed. So I got to train for about 4 months, and he had been, I didn't know this but at the time, but he had boxed for about 20 years. But
Wow.
even after having known that, I basically underestimated him. I thought I was going to beat him easily. And as a matter of fact, I almost knocked him out in the first round, even though we had the headgear. At one point, I gave him a solid right, and his eyes just rolled back, and he fell in the ropes. But I was so gassed because unfortunately I was a smoker at that time. So you can't box and smoke, but that's how confident I was at the time, and I underestimated him. And in professional sports and whatever it is, politics, you cannot underestimate your opponents. You have to respect them. And that's a mistake that I did. I paid the price because it wasn't easy to live with the fact that I lost a boxing match to Justin Trudeau. But look, we celebrated the 10th year anniversary of that match yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I have the utmost respect. He beat me fair and square, and I just asked him if he yesterday on Twitter if he'd want to go golfing instead.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very gentlemanly of you. I personally would rather see a rematch because now you bring up, and I like to dig in the controversy here, but you bring up that he kind of chose you knowing that you weren't as experienced as him. So now I think that, the time might be right, especially since, he's become somewhat controversial too in his time in as prime minister. And I think that, who knows, I think a rematch might be something you might not want to, totally take off the books. I think it could do a wonder for both your levels of publicity and public image as well.
Well, just a fun fact here. For the last 9 years, up until yesterday, I've been asking every year for a rematch, and I've had no answer. But when I did lose, I had asked for a rematch immediately after the match, and he had respectfully declined. And so I think I've given up. But having said that, maybe after his time is in office, if we can get back in the ring for a good cause, I'm in pretty good shape today too.
Yeah. Do you feel there's any particular reason why he chose you out of all the other people he could have reached out to?
Well, from what I understand, I believe he had asked two other conservative members at the time who were in the House of Commons. I believe Peter MacKay was asked, who was a former foreign affairs minister during the Harper government, and he had asked another member of parliament, and they had both declined. And so I was the next one he had stumbled upon, and which I had immediately accepted.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now, do you feel that had you actually knocked him out there in the first round, that would have had an effect on his political career?
Well, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't think had I won that boxing match, I don't think that Justin Trudeau would be prime minister today. I sincerely don't, because at that time he wasn't seen as very strong whatsoever, and he was also a member of the third political party at the time, and so. We're delving into hypotheticals, but certainly on a personal level, I like to believe that had I won, he would not be prime minister today.
Mhm. Mhm. And I mean, he's come under so much fire as of late, especially with everything that's gone on with COVID in the country. Recently, we had the truckers convoy that put a lot of heat on him. How do you feel that he's been doing as prime minister and handling, especially during these uncertain times through COVID? How would you rate the job that he's done so far?
Well, I don't think my job is to rate any prime minister's job. But having said that, obviously he hasn't had it very easy because of the pandemic. No prime minister ever does. And, truth be told, when somebody enters politics, it's very hard to try and please everybody.
Hmm.
One, because, people sometimes they get disliked because they're from one political party and perhaps not another one. And so it's very hard to please people. But having said that, he was elected in 2015. He's been reelected twice since. He got reelected about 6 months ago. And so the people of Canada have spoken, and come time for the next election, Canadians will speak again. And so it's the role and the responsibility of Canadians to decide what type of job he has done thus far.
Yeah. And because I like to ask the hard hitting questions here and I like to delve into these kinds of things, I feel that you and Justin share a lot more in common now than maybe at the time when you guys boxed, because I feel he kind of had this image where he was, basically the second coming of his father, or at least people wanted to believe that. And then slowly but surely, as his time in politics went on, there was a lot of controversy, a lot of scandals. There were issues that range from him doing blackface when he was younger, him taking money from certain companies, possibly under dubious circumstances. There were harassment allegations, again, from the past. Do you feel that Justin, he kind of came out of that unscathed and, has managed to maintain his image? Or do you feel like, that was something that probably might have set him back in people's eyes? I say this because you faced a lot of controversy as well, managed to navigate it successfully. Do you feel he's done a successful job of deflecting a lot of that and overcoming it?
Well, like I said, I'm not here to judge anybody, and I've made my fair share of mistakes, and I'll pay the price for those mistakes for the rest of my life. And I firmly believe that there are many people who go through life and make mistakes, and we have to realize that sometimes depending on our age, we've lived in different periods of time where some things were accepted and other things not accepted, and so we have to be mindful of today of society. what's acceptable, what's not. And like I said, I mean, in politics, people judge leaders by ways of elections. And so time will tell with respect to if his image has been improved, or if he's managed his image or whatnot. But until we get to that election, we have Justin Trudeau as our prime minister, and that's something I'll respect. Just like I'll respect if ever there's a conservative prime minister that comes in, in the future.
Mhm.
I mean, that we have to respect our leaders. I was born like that. I was raised like that, and I still think it's important in today's society.
Yep. No, I totally agree. And I feel that one of the things, again, just me expressing my opinions here, but I feel that to a certain degree, Justin has represented a bit of a constant. More or less, you know what you're going to get with him. And I feel that the Conservative Party is obviously the number two party here in Canada, but they've had a lot of changes in leadership. And even some controversy of their own with the formation of the People's Party due to that split over the leadership and controversy with the vote. Do you feel that that's kind of, as a former member of the Conservative Party, do you feel that that's kind of hindered them being able to establish a solid foothold and really be able to build a good team to put the Liberals out of power?
Well, I think that that's always good for democracy. Each time that we have a strong opposition party, whether it's the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party, it's better for Canada as a whole. And so I, I'm certainly hoping that, going forward, that that people get more involved in politics, because it's one thing to sometimes complain from the sidelines, but if people don't get more involved into politics, it is the political parties that are going to start taking advantage of the electorate, and we don't want that to happen. We want more people involved so that the political parties don't decide for all of Canadians what their policies are going to be, and how we should think and how we should feel.
Mhm.
And I think that the more we get involved as a nation, that political parties are going to be put on hold, because what I see happening right now, and I don't want to delve into the conservative leadership race once again, but because I haven't been part of that party for 9 years. But what I'm starting to see is, you mentioned the People's Party of Canada. I mean, uh, and we see the Conservatives, we see an extreme right wing
Mhm.
component to the Conservative Party, and a more, I guess, centralist conservatives. And to me, it looks like the early 90s, when the Conservative Party had the Conservative Party of Canada, the Reform Party, and the
Yeah.
Canadian Alliance. And so they were split because, they don't seem to get their act together, talking as a strong party, one voice. I mean, it's okay to have different voices, but not to have such extreme positions within a party. I think that's quite dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, if I could give my 2 cents on it, I kind of feel like the situation surrounding Max Bernier and the creation of the People's Party, it to me, and this is just me speaking. Hey, the name of the show is Jofo. That's just our effing opinion. So this is Jeremy's effing opinion. But it seems to me that a lot of it was born out of sour grapes, albeit some may feel that it might have been justified. But I feel that it kind of takes the eyes off of the prize, being that if you're separating into a far right and centrist right, as you said, it's really just going to split the vote and take away overall votes from what should be one unified front. Which is what I believe has consistently allowed, the Liberals to maintain. We just saw in the last election, they didn't really gain any ground. They didn't lose any ground. It's just the same status quo. And I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by entertaining this idea of being this I've had the term, but I forgot it. But basically, a party that exists to support one small niche group of what should be a united front, and ultimately takes votes away from it. It's like they're there. I don't know if their end goal is to succeed and be better than the Conservative Party, or just to ensure that the Conservative Party loses in elections because that sector of the voting population has been taken away. So to me, it kind of seems like it might just be a sour grapes movement. Sorry to all the People's Party people out there, but that's my opinion on it.
Well, look, I can't disagree with what you just said. I mean, I used to sit in caucus with the leader of the People's Party, and a few of the candidates running for the Conservative Party right now. And look, that individual came to just a few votes of winning the
Yeah.
Conservative leadership race, and all of a sudden turns around and the party that welcomed him for so many years and gave him the opportunities and made him a cabinet minister, turns his back on that party and forms his own party that seems to be more of a populist party more than anything else. But
Mhm.
like I said, I mean, people will go to and will support the people and the parties that they think represents them best. But having said that, let's not forget that in sports and in politics too, there are people who have huge egos, and while they talk and while the words come out of their mouth that sometimes it's all about the people, it's all about the people. Well, that's actually BS. A lot of it is it's all about themselves.
Mhm.
And so we just have to be mindful and wary of that when politicians speak. And it's up for every individual to make up their minds as to whether they're telling the truth or not. But you have to be mindful of what comes out of some people's mouths sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't mean to turn this into a whole episode about politics, but I mean it is your specialty. I'm just a fan of politics. I myself am a swing voter. I'm not one of these people who votes consistently. Throughout my life, my voting life, I've not consistently voted for the same party. I vote for the party that has the best platform and the one that I feel will best represent me, both locally and on a bigger stage. So I've voted for a variety of different parties throughout my voting tenure, and I'm always open-minded to hear what the candidates and what the parties have to offer. With that said, one of the biggest knocks against the Conservative Party has been that they've lost footing in Quebec, and that without being able to secure more votes in the province of Quebec, they'll never be able to establish any kind of a government, even a minority vote. Being a Quebecer yourself, do you feel that there's a decent amount of truth to that?
Well, actually, just for the record, back in 2011, the Conservative Party under Stephen Harper did win a majority government without much support from the province of Quebec, which I believe was the first time that had ever occurred in Canada, a majority government without the majority of the seats going towards the governing party. Um, but having said that, the Conservative Party has always had trouble in the province of Quebec. I mean, there are many historical reasons for that. And, the last time they had any kind of strength was back in the 80s when Brian Mulroney was
Mm.
the prime minister and the leader of the Conservative Party. And so, it's I think with respect to Quebec, I think that the Conservative Party are a little bit out of tune with Quebecers, and it's probably because of the extreme right wing components of the Conservative Party that just turns people off in Quebec and in many other parts of the country as well.
Mm. Yep, no, that's a fair statement. Taking it now on a more lighter note, we can leave the politics behind for a little bit. But when it was announced back in whatever year that was, where we worked on that first show for Great North Wrestling, I'll never forget when they announced that you were going to be part of the show. I started doing my research, and I didn't really know who you were. But I was surprised when my mother had asked me. My mother always wants to follow up on where I'm wrestling, what town I'm going to be in. And I told her I'm going to be on this show and started telling her, some of the people that were going to be on it and what my match was and whatnot. And when I mentioned that you were going to be on it, I said, there's a senator who's going to be there, Patrick Brazeau. Maybe you've heard of him. And she was like, "Oh yes, him. I know of him. Yeah, he's the indigenous man there, the one." And she said, and I quote, "He's a very good-looking man." That was a direct quote from my mother.
I love your mom.
Well, she watches the show from time to time, so she'll appreciate you saying that. But yeah, she was very much of the belief you were a very good-looking man, and she felt that they were giving you a bit of a bad rap in politics for just trying to make a living, just trying to earn a decent income for yourself. Where did that controversy come from about how you were getting two paychecks and that was a bad thing? What was the deal with that?
Well, with respect to the two paychecks, it's because essentially it was announced in late December of 2008 that I was going to be named to the Senate, and at that time I was the national chief of the Congress of Aboriginal Peoples, and the media quickly hopped on the fact that I was, holding two jobs at once. But at that time I hadn't even had the time to tell my organization that I was going to the Senate, and I didn't even have to plan. I didn't have time to plan anything, and the media were already jumping on my back, so to speak, in trying to create controversy, which at times they found and created.
Mm. Yeah, no, it sounded like for that period of time, you never had an easy day. It just seemed like they were out to get you, and every little thing you did just came under scrutiny. And I think that it's a little unfair, but I guess that's the double-edged sword of wanting to be in politics and make a difference, and just having enemies. Not to say like you went out of your way to make enemies, but people who would want your position, people who were of a different party. It's not really much different in wrestling. In wrestling, it's the same thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Wrestling and politics is there's a lot of comparables because wrestlers and politicians they try to create a narrative, to get support from people and to create some some people who are not as supportive to create some kind of reaction. And you work and you meet people that you like, you meet people that you dislike, but then you offer, in terms of politicians, they offer policy. In terms of wrestlers, they offer entertainment. And so,
Mhm.
at the end, it is the audience and it is Canadians who decide and who get to choose. But there's a lot of similarities between politics and wrestling, and I think that's why we've seen over the course of history a lot of politicians who've been on on WWE shows
Yep.
or former WWF, etc. And so it's all good fun,
Yeah.
but
Including the
it's all
former
serious.
including the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who,
Well,
who's a
yes,
WWE Hall of
yes,
Famer.
he was. I remember seeing him on WWE. Yeah.
Yeah, he briefly was the owner of Monday Night Raw in a storyline that they did. But yeah, no, I think wrestling and politics, there's so many parallels. One of the things that blew my mind was after we had done that event for Great North Wrestling. I remember you were hospitalized after that, and during that time, it was mind blowing to me that I received so many calls and emails and people reaching out to me, like Global News and CTV News and newspapers all across the country, reaching out to me because there was that photo of us with the Great North Wrestling Championship, the one where you're in the Canadiens jersey. And somehow people were able to track down, like my mother received calls, I received calls, emails. They were able to track down my information to want to know if I could give them an update on you, which I didn't really have. I just gave, comments and said we worked together at that event, and he was a great guy, real ballsy guy, was I think how I described you for taking that pile driver through the table. But it amazed me how there were just so many people digging for dirt and wanting to get that scoop aggressively, really. I mean, like in the span of like a week, I think I received easily like 10 to 15 different inquiries, some directly by phone, some by email. So yeah, I got a slight taste of probably what you would go through on a daily basis with this kind of thing.
Well, luckily it's in the past now, but certainly when I was going through it, oftentimes when there were scandals and I was having personal problems, there were reporters parked outside of my house, and
Wow.
I go lines in the morning, and well, there's the CTV truck or there's the CBC van and glow, and it was very difficult, and it obviously took its toll on me, and I turned to alcohol in particular to try and drain the pain and try and move beyond the problems I was having. But as a matter of fact, I was digging myself even deeper, and so I didn't help my cause either. But having said that, today, I mean, I was victim of many injustices, perhaps, but I've survived it, and I'm doing well now, and hopefully we could just turn towards positive stuff here going forward.
Indeed. And in talking about positive stuff, I'd like to take it back to the wrestling here. You mentioned that you were a wrestling fan. When did you discover professional wrestling, and who were some of your favorites?
Well, I was always a Hulk Hogan fan. In the early '80s, there was always the Saturday night's main event, so I was able to stay up. I believe it was at midnight that night, or where it would air where I was from, and it was always interesting because Hulk Hogan, who used to on the regular tapings, used to wrestle with people we didn't really know about. I forget one, but had the last name Steele or something, early '80s. But anyway, and I remember I went to go see Hulk Hogan at the Ottawa Exposition
Mm.
one summer, and so that was a big deal. And so I've, growing up, I've always been a fan up until about 2 years ago, where I started listening a bit less and less to WWE because of, just personal level, just bad storylines.
Mm.
And but obviously, probably, too bad you talent like you and Hannibal aren't in more mainstream wrestling, because you and guys like Hannibal have a lot more talent than half of the roster that we see in WWE right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It's tough when you're Canadian. That's what people don't realize, and it's what I've been. If you follow my social medias or any of the interviews I do, I'm trying to shed some light on that, because as entertainers, we need to obtain work visas to be able to go to the United States to even try out with companies. So it puts a bigger degree of difficulty on us to be able to have the same kind of level playing field as someone from the United States, because all the big companies, WWE, AEW, they're companies based in the United States, and they want to know what they're getting before they buy it. So they try people out. But in the case of a Canadian, you have to pay for that work visa. You got to put up that, $5,000 or more just to see if somebody's really got the goods and worth investing in. So there's that upfront cost. Whereas you can just pull a guy off the American independent scene and pay him per appearance, and then see if he's worth making the big investment and giving him a contract. So Canadians kind of have it difficult. Like, we can't even go there and wrestle on the American independent scene, again, because of the work visa issues, because of the borders and how tight they are. Even if we're going for free, they still have the right to deny us under the suspicion that maybe we're going to get paid, or under the guise of taking a job away from an American citizen. So that's been what's kept back a lot of the people like myself and Hannibal, who are more talented than people in the United States, and people you see on TV probably earning 6 to 7 figure incomes. However, I'm working very hard to change that. I'm working very hard to establish myself. I look at it as, I need to kind of be the Jackie Robinson for Canadians, like how he broke the color barrier in baseball to make them see, okay, you know what, we have these guys playing in a segregated league here, but we could put them on our team. And then, wow, what a team we'd have. We'll have championship teams if we include these guys. So it just takes that one that can show that, hey, let's get the scouts to look over there. We know there's more of a cost, but let's watch them and let's find those diamonds in the rough and let's bring them in. Which, to me, it's mind-blowing, because in professional sports, all professional sports, they scout the world over. Look at the Montreal Canadiens. There's a time I think we had more Russians on the team than Canadians, or more players from Finland than Canada or the U.S. And so that's why I think that wrestling just needs to change their mindset and needs to actually start scouting the world, because I'm a firm believer, whoever they say the best in the world is, he might not be the best in the world. The best in the world might be here in Canada. The best in the world might be in Africa. The best in the world might be in Asia. Unfortunately, it's just a very United States of America centric, because we're all Americans here. We're all part of North America, but it's a very United States of America centric view that they have and talent pool that they use. So that's what we're facing. But we have a lot of, I fight every day for this, much like, you fight in politics. I fight for this in professional wrestling. And I do feel that I have enough fight in me and enough willingness to bear the brunt of all this on my shoulders and, fight through the haters and be able to achieve something that will leave a bigger legacy than just winning a championship in professional wrestling. So that's what I aim to do. And
Well, all the more power to you, because I know it's obviously not easy, but hey, if you enjoy what you're doing, keep at it. You just never know, right?
yeah, definitely. And, I was going to talk to you a bit about this off air, but we can include it in the episode. Why not? One of the things happening right now that could be a big breakthrough for Canadians is a project called Wrestling Academy, or Lutte Academy, that Jacques Rougeau is putting together. If you've seen my socials, it's all over there. What Jacques has done is actually take the steps to help bridge the gap for Canadians to be able to have opportunities in the United States. So what he's done is it's a competition style. It's kind of like Star Academy, which for those who don't know out there, that's like our local Quebec American Idol type of singing competition. So that's why it's called Wrestling Academy, because what he's doing is he's taking 40 wrestlers from all over Canada. So from BC to St. John's, coast to coast, bringing in 40 wrestlers, of which there's a good amount of Quebec wrestlers in it. And it's by elimination each round. So there's going to be 3 rounds. First round is actually going to be May 15th. It's at Club Soda, which, by the way, you're more than welcome to attend that. In fact, I would love for you to attend it if you have the time. Sunday, May 15th. And what he does is there's eliminations each round. So it gets down to the final 8, and then that's the last round of eliminations, and then we have the 4 winners. So there's going to be a male singles winner, a male, 2 male tag team winners, and a female winner. So each round is a competition, and it's done by votes. So the people actually get to vote on whose performance they enjoyed the most, and that's what will determine the eliminations. Now, the best part is that the winners, they each get a $5,000 cash prize, which, that's all good and nice. $5,000 is nothing to scoff at, but they also get a 3-month scholarship at the Nightmare Factory, which is the biggest wrestling school in the United States. It's run by QT Marshall and Cody Rhodes. QT Marshall, who's a part of AEW. Cody Rhodes, who was one of the founding EVPs, executive vice presidents for AEW, and maybe on his way to the WWE. We don't know. He might already be there by the time this episode airs, so who knows. But it's a 3-month scholarship at their school in Atlanta, Georgia. And there'll be a lot of opportunities to be seen there, for your talent to be evaluated and appraised, and to possibly get a job with one of the biggest companies. So for me, this is easily the biggest opportunity of my career. And it's like I've told Jacques, I said, look, I'm in it to win it. I'm already strategizing. I've been ready for this since before this was even a thing. Look, if they told me, you know what, we're going to forego the contest and put you down there tomorrow, just be on a plane. I got my passport. I'm good to go. I'm always in shape. And my skills have only gotten better over the 16 years that I've done this. Believe it or not, 16 years of doing this, never took a day off, never got injured. So some of that is in the hands of God, but I'm ready for this since yesterday. So this is the biggest thing right now is Wrestling Academy. And it's the opportunity that I've been waiting for as a Canadian who, is just waiting for that big break. So hopefully we can make that happen.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And like I said, if you're free May 15th, it'd be an honor to have you there. I can definitely look into hooking you up with some tickets and making that happen if you'd want to attend.
Absolutely. I'll check the calendar. Absolutely.
It's going to be at the Club Soda in Montreal. So right there downtown on Saint Laurent. And it's going to be from 7 to 9. And it's an all ages event too. So it's going to be not necessarily to say family oriented, but I mean, there's certain rules we have to abide by, no swearing, no blood, no weapons, but good wrestling, excellent wrestling, because, when Jeremy Prophet's name is on the marquee, it's going to be outstanding, one way or another. I don't need any shortcuts. It's going to be all action. And, like I've been saying, I pity whoever, if I'm not the main event, I pity whoever has to go on after me, because they're just going to be an afterthought once those people see me.
Well, you're quite right. I've seen you in action, and it would be tough for sure.
Yeah. And if you come there, though, I have to make me one promise, and that is that you will not hit me with a spear again. Because the last time, which was when I beat Wes Briscoe for the Great North Wrestling Canadian Championship for the 3rd time. So see, you were instrumental in 2 of my wins. I'm a 3-time champion. 2 of them were in matches involving you, but you weren't too nice to me that 3rd time around. You hit me with such a spear. Do you know who Rhino is? The wrestler Rhino?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Rhino, he's known for his spear, or his gore, as he calls it. Okay, I wrestled Rhino. I did a tag match against Rhino and Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino hit me with the spear. And I'm no word of a lie. Rhino hit me with the spear. I don't want to discredit him or whatever, but I mean, it felt like a day off. I could take that. No problem. He could hit that same kind of spear on one of my tiny cats that's like, smaller than my fist, and they'd be fine. You hit me with a spear that almost gave me convulsions in that ring. And I mean, we can dig up the footage and show the people, and I'll tell a bit of the backstory behind that as you know, but I don't think we really talked that over. I kind of told you in the ring, give me a spear.
No, we hadn't talked about
no,
that
we didn't
whatsoever. I don't know. I just went back to the early 80s and just tried to pull something.
Because we were in there, and I remember, we were, again, I don't want to delve too deep into the story, but my opponent that night, he was preoccupied. He was at the merchandise table, and then there was also my manager, or his manager, that was turning on him, and you were there as the referee, the sort of enforcer. And it was to a point where we kind of got in the ring, and we were left with a moment where the people needed something. So I was just kind of feeling the crowd, reading the crowd, and I'm like, they're really mad that I won. We got to give them something just to send them home with a little bit of a feeling of, okay, he got his comeuppance. And that was when I grabbed you and I said, okay, I hope this is going to work. I hope he understands what I mean. And, then I'm there, I back you up and I'm just like, give me that spear. I say it to you. But man, when you hit me with that thing, I tell you, I was not expecting that. You hit me like I was coming down the gridiron and you were defending your end zone. Man, it was almost a literal spear going through my stomach. And I'm not exaggerating. I had no idea you were going to hit me that hard.
Well, I was just hoping not to hit my head first. I sort of whiplash but it wasn't perhaps the best spear, but it wasn't too bad.
Oh, I tell you, I would encourage anyone who discredits that spear to go in there and take that. If you could duplicate that, hit somebody with it, they might not live to tell the tale. Like I said, I've been gored by rhino. You hit a million times harder than he did. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. I like to feel it when I'm in there. Maybe I kind of did what you did to Justin Trudeau, and I kind of underestimated the power and velocity that you'd be able to achieve with that spear. Would I take it again? Maybe. I'd have to think about it. And again, maybe they might have to put an extra 0 at the end of my paycheck. But
well, careful now. You're making me want to, maybe train to step into the ring. You never know.
Hey,
I'm not there yet.
Hey, it could happen. Why not? We could maybe who knows? We could maybe be a team, so I don't have to take that spear again. Or maybe pair you up with a wrestler, with an established veteran like myself, and I could pair up with somebody, maybe one of your political rivals, and we could maybe do something good for charity. Who knows?
We just never know in life.
Yeah, but truth be told, I have a tremendous respect for you as a human being and for what you've done here in this country. So I'd rather team up with you than fight against you, I should say.
Well, that would be great. Like I said, you have to respect your opponents, and sometimes when we're competing against some people, we just simply have to do the right thing and respect them. That's it. That's all. Win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, it's competition, but it's respect above all else.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to respect as human beings for each other. And just so you know, I'd just like to let you confirm that I will be there on the 15th. I just checked the schedule, and it's a go.
Awesome. Outstanding.
Absolutely.
I'll make sure they save you a nice seat. I'll try to get you a ringside seat. I don't know what the configuration is because Club Soda, I know they have seating up top and on the floor. I don't know if it's standing or if it's going to be seated, but I will do my best to get you a ringside seat. And again, just on the guarantee that please do not jump in the ring and spear me.
Anywhere in the building is fine.
All right. I'll see if I can get you a seat next to Jacques.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. I appreciate that. So now I'd just like for you to maybe let the people know where they can follow you, where they can find you, and if there's anything else you want to plug, just want to turn that over to you.
Well, look, I'm not. I'm on social media. I'm basically just on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, but that's more of a personal thing, family thing. And I'm quite vocal on Twitter about what I'm doing on a personal and professional level. And I'm just trying to be kind and nice to people and give back the best way that I can. And luckily, I have a lot of years ahead of me to be in a position to do just that.
Excellent. Also, just came to mind, but on the 15th, also on that card, in fact, I think he's doing the match right before me. This might interest you, is a guy I've known my entire career. He was one of the more advanced students when I started at Jacques Rougeau's wrestling school in 2003. And he's going to be wrestling in this competition as well. His name is Kyle Zachary, and he's actually a peacekeeper in the community of Kanawaki.
Oh.
And so I think that he'll be very thrilled that you'll be there as well. And he has a very big contingent coming to support him also.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I think it'll be great that, you'll get to see him perform as well and maybe get to interact with some of his fans that'll be there also. I'm sure they appreciate the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And so with that brings us to the end of the episode. Senator, I can't thank you enough for being here. I hope that our audience was very enlightened and entertained by what they heard today. And if ever you'd want to come back on, we will gladly once again roll out the red carpet for you and be able to give you this wonderful platform to, share stories, have a good time, and be a part of the JoFo family. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you for the invitation. And Champ, I'm a huge fan. I think you're awesome talent. I look forward to seeing you on the 15th. And if I could just say the following, I mean, I'm somebody who had a lot of personal problems, and when talking about men, regardless of the status or what people do in life, people could get into problems delving into too much booze or too much drugs. So, if you're having problems, regardless of what it is, there's no shame in trying to reach out, phoning a friend, asking a complete stranger for help. It can save a life. It saved mine, and it could save anybody else's life as well.
I think that's a great message to end on. And yeah, absolutely. There's always somebody there for you, and there's no need to have to go through any of this alone. Support is very important. You're a living, breathing example that, even if you're down, you can find that way out and go on to even better things. Sometimes life gives us tests to be able to make us better people once we come through it. So kudos to you on everything that you've achieved. I thank you again for all the great work you're doing in the government and for us here in Canada. And on that note, we'd like to wrap up another episode here of Jofo in the Ring. You can follow us on Twitter at Jofo in the Ring. Follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet, JeremyProphet. On Instagram at The Real Jeremy Prophet. And as always, you can see us here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our channel as of yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and stay tuned for our many more episodes, live watch-alongs, and other great content. And as always, remember that wrestling is life.
So, Jofo, I'm a gargle a shot for Kurt Hennig, everybody, before we go.
Oh, no.
Jofo, thank you guys.